last century we had 2 massive world wars, 3 if you count the Cold War. I think it's unlikely that we will never have another world war again.
Or if we have another one, it'll be the last.
Yeah, it just could be radioactive rubble.
We will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea. Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime.
개들이 짖어도 행렬은 간다는 말이 있습니다.
There is a saying, dogs bark, but caravan goes on.
개 짖는 소리로 우리를 놀려보려고 생각했다면 그거야말로 개꿈입니다.
If anyone thinks such remarks that is nothing more than a dog's barking can frighten us, it is really a wild dream.
Mr. Trump called Kim Jong-un rocket boy. How is your response? How is your response?
그 보좌관들이 불쌍합니다.
I feel pity for his advisors.
And by the way, Rocket Man should have been handled a long time ago. Little Rocket Man. We're going to do it because we really have no choice.
This was the podium where 4 days earlier, President Trump threatened to totally destroy North Korea. Now it was time for the country's top diplomat to give his blistering reply.
최고 통사령관.
Due to his lack of basic common knowledge and proper sentiment, he tried to insult the supreme dignity of my country by referring to it as a rocket. By doing so, however, he committed an irreversible mistake of making our rocket's visit to the entire US mainland inevitable all the more. None other than Trump himself is on a suicide mission.
It's like if you know that there's likely to be, we don't know, but there's likely to be another Dark Ages, which it seems, my guess is there probably will be at some point. I'm not predicting that we're about to enter Dark Ages, but that there's some probability that we will, particularly if there's a Third World War. Then we want to make sure that there's enough of a seed of human civilization somewhere else to bring civilization back and perhaps shorten the length of the Dark Ages.
You guys know what this represents?
Tell us, sir.
Maybe it's the calm before the storm.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
There may be an arms race starting in Asia.
Pakistan reportedly building 20 nuclear warheads a year.
Putin reportedly threatening nuclear war in order to force NATO troops out of nations bordering Russia.
Any U.S. warplane flying over a Syrian government-controlled area could now be shot down by Russia.
He showcased Russia's new generation of nuclear weapons, including what Putin calls an invincible intercontinental cruise missile, all of it a potential threat to Western nations. Putin claims his weapons can easily pierce through NATO missile defense systems in Poland, Romania, and Alaska, in essence making those defenses useless. The Russian defense minister compared it to an umbrella with holes in it.
Russia this morning is flexing its military muscle, threatening Washington with a new line of nuclear weapons that it claims can reach almost anywhere in the world and would render American defense systems useless.
Нас никто не слушал.
Saying nobody listened to us, so listen to us now. President Vladimir Putin's message to Washington was loud and clear.
Это не блеф.
I am not bluffing. Speaking for nearly 2 hours to an enthusiastic audience, Putin unveiled an impressive array of new military hardware, difficult to detect, and Russia claims impossible to intercept.
He addressed the US directly. He said that any attack on Russia's allies is an attack on Russia itself, and he demonstrated a very impressive array of new weaponry, which he said, and this is a quote, to the US, he said, "This is not a bluff. This is serious. Russia means business."
Both India and Pakistan have more than 100 nuclear weapons each, far more
than enough to create a nuclear winter which will kill us all. They have fought 3 wars since 1947, and India is developing a nuclear submarine fleet so it can fire its missiles from anywhere.
Even a war between India and Pakistan, 2 of the smallest nuclear powers, with only a few hundred weapons of about the size of the Hiroshima bomb, we might die as unintended consequences. My colleagues calculated the spread of smoke after a war between India and Pakistan. It only takes about 2 weeks for the smoke to cover the entire Earth, and it would rise to altitudes between 20 and 50 miles above the surface. At those altitudes, it never rains. The smoke would stay there for years. This farmer may be in Europe or in the United States, but many thousands of miles from Pakistan and India, is looking at the smoky sky above him and down at the crops that have died in his field from lack of light and cold temperatures. It's estimated that in a war between India and Pakistan, that we would lose 10 to 40% of the yields of corn, wheat, and rice for years afterward because of the bad weather. The entire world only has enough food to feed the population for 60 days unless agriculture produces more food. It's estimated that 1 to 2 billion people would die after a war between India and Pakistan of starvation.
North Korea claims it has successfully tested a hydrogen bomb, a device which can be loaded onto a long-range ballistic missile. South Korea and Japan say it was a nuclear test 10 times more powerful than the previous attempt by Pyongyang.
Just days before he hosts the US Secretary of State, Turkey's president has said US forces in Syria may be in for an Ottoman slap. The warning comes as the US continues to fight alongside Kurdish fighters in Syria. Those who are saying that if they were attacked they would answer aggressively, well, obviously it's very clear that they have never gotten an Ottoman slap in their life.
It is with considerable concern that we set the time of the 2018 Doomsday Clock and offer a plea to rewind the Doomsday Clock. As of today, it is 2 minutes to midnight, as well as new testing undertaken by North Korea, nuclear exercises built into Russia's military plans, and an enhanced commitment to nuclear weapons in Pakistan, India, and China. We considered at length the lack of predictability in how the United States is thinking about the future and future use of its own nuclear weapons, and unpredictability that it is embodied in statements and tweets by the President of the United States.
And after a full-scale nuclear war, temperatures would plunge below ice age conditions. We would be in a nuclear winter. No crops would grow. It's estimated that 90% of the population of the planet would starve to death, and civilization would be destroyed. And no one would be safe. Not those in countries with no nuclear weapons, not those in countries that didn't participate in the war, and not those on the other side of the planet from where the explosions occurred. No one would be safe.
Even small exchanges could be absolutely devastating. You're going to have first the destruction effects, you'll have fallout, you may have some climatic effects that spread.
For his part, Robach has modeled a hypothetical worst-case scenario, which suggests that widely dispersed smoke from a small regional nuclear conflict could cause cooling of several degrees across parts of the world.
That would be enough to have a huge impact on agricultural production. The world would have much less food. So you can imagine these political instabilities developing, and war and terrible famine as a result of a small nuclear war on the other side of the world.